Civilization or Barbarism, an Authentic Anthropology by Dr. Cheikh and Diop. Bantu philosophy of Father Temples. The Bantu philosophy studied by Father Placid Temples is, according to the Abibi Alex Kagami, characteristic of the Baluba of Kasai. It reveals vitalistic concepts that have become semi conscious at the basis of all the being's activity. The whole ontological universe is filled with a hierarchy of vital forces that have the property of being additive. The vital forces of an individual can increase with the wearing of the beast's tooth or decrease because of the negative effect of a magical practice. We see here also that this system of thought, of which its upholders are hardly aware, cannot be considered to be a philosophy in the classical sense. Once more, Egypt will allow us to better penetrate the facts. In Egypt, the first concrete manifestation of vitalistic concepts goes back to Pharaoh Zosar, 3rd dynasty, 2800 BCE. In the funeral domain of this pharaoh at Saqqara, one can still see today the wall that rounded off angles along which he had to run among other practices in order to demonstrate to the priest that he had recuperated his vital force during the ceremony of regeneration. The Feast of Sed. Following this test, the pharaoh was again able to reign. If not, he probably had to resign for insufficiency of his vital force. Another striking example is that of Pharaoh Yunus of the 5th dynasty, who, after death, had to mystically reinforce his vital force so that he would be able to rejoin his Ka in order to become immortal. On his journey, he swallows all beings possible in order to reinforce his vital force. In the strict Baluba sense, Baluba sense, these vitalistic concepts that go back to the ancient empire are at the basis of all of the African monarchies and explain their structure. Everywhere in Black Africa, in the societies that have reached the monarchical organizational stage, there exists the act of actually or ritually putting the king, Zoser, to death after a reign of a certain number of years, generally 8. The pharaoh is the demiurge on earth who recreates the universe by his ritual acts. If he does not have the vital force of a god, misfortune befalls the earth. It is the same all over Black Africa in the case of the traditional king, to the extent that in the whole Sudanese region, a king wounded in war was forced to leave the throne until he had recuperated. Similarly, both in Egypt and in the rest of Black Africa, the interregnum periods are periods of chaos and anarchy because there is no intermediary between heaven and earth, between the divinities and humanity. Other Osirian practices show that the Baluba come from the northeast and that they had been in contact with Egyptian thought. In fact, according to the Abi Kagami, pearls are put in the dead person's mouth in order to pay the ferryman of hell who will take the dead one across to the other shore, as in Thebes. It is certain that the Greek river Styx was borrowed from Egyptian mythology, for only the Egyptians had two towns, one for the living and another for the dead, separated by a river, the Nile, Karnak and Luxor on one side, Thebes on the other, western side. We'll pause right here. Continue back. Civilization or barbarism. I'm your Riley. Hi, sir.